Very good evening to all. So, last session, we can wind up the session with some with a discussion on statistics. Statistics is essential for every research process, and various statistical techniques are applied in different stages of research work. That may be while planning the investigation, or during data collection, or while analyzing the data. Now you are at the planning stage and you want to prepare a research protocol. Have you ever gone through the protocol? Anybody? We have three sections to deal with in protocol. All these terms are related to some statistics, isn't it? First one, sampling. The second, sample size calculation, and the third one is analysis plan. How to fill up these sections with some awareness in statistics. That is why we have a topic on statistics. Actually, we have two sections on statistics. Today we'll discuss the sampling and sample size calculation, and tomorrow we'll have a discussion on this analysis plan. We start with the terms population and sample. The difference between population and sample. The entire study elements, the totality of observations under consideration, that is called a population, and a representative part of population called sample. It may be a subset of population that should represent the entire population. You know the difference very well. So moving to the next slide. We have two different methods for collecting data. What are they? Census method and sampling method. Census method is the complete enumeration method in which we will be collecting information from each and every unit of the population. And in sampling, it is the method by which in which we'll collect the information from a subset of the population called sample. Census method is feasible only if your population size is very, very less. So most of the studies are conducted based on samples. Let us see some terms some important things about sampling design. What are the things to be kept in mind while designing a sampling? First of all, you have to define the exact population and sampling units. We should have clear-cut idea about the study population, who should be selected for the study or who should not be selected. If you are conducting a case control study, who are the cases and who are the controls? Just refine the population based on or applying appropriate inclusion and exclusion criteria. That's the first and most important thing in sampling design. Second thing is regarding size of the sample. Sample size should be adequate as possible. And third one, the size also, one more thing, the sample size should be fixed prior to the actual data collection. And the third one, regarding the parameters of interest, which are the study variables. We should fix the variables under study that is closely related to your objectives of the study, and decide which are the demographic variables, which are the clinical variables and non-clinical variables to be studied. At the same time, you don't need to collect information which are away from your objectives. That is very, very important. It is somewhat unethical. Sometimes it is seen that it's not ethical. That's why we are saying. And the next thing regarding the sampling method, we have a lot of sampling methods for data collection. Choose the appropriate one. That is also closely related to your study objectives. And the population nature. We may be conducting surveys in communities, or it may be a hospital-based study. choose the appropriate sampling procedure for the data collection, and we will get a good sampling design. What are the properties of good sampling design? It will be always a representative of the population, and the appropriate sampling procedure will be chosen, and the sample size will be adequate, and there will be enough response rate. The participation rate will be high, and so the error will be very less, and it will be less costly, and the results obtained can be generalized to the total population, their population. So all these items should be kept in mind while designing a sampling. We have two methods of sampling. What are they? Probability sampling and non-probability sampling. What is the main difference between probability sampling and non-probability sampling? The name itself says the difference. Here, in probability sampling, the sample units are selected with some probability. Each unit will have some probability of being selected to the sample. And in non-probability sampling, there is no such assumption regarding the selection. That's the main difference between probability and non-probability sampling. And what is the advantage of this probability sampling over non-probability sampling? In probability sampling, as I told you that there is some probability assumption for each and every unit of the population, and the errors can be detected in terms of probability and can be eliminated with the application of certain advanced statistical techniques. That is possible in probability sampling. That is why probability sampling methods called more scientific compared to non-probability sampling methods. But non-probability samplings are not very bad. We'll go to that for a discussion. We have 4 types of probability sampling. Actually, we have a lot of probability sampling methods. We'll discuss all these 4 types. First one, simple random sampling. Then stratified, systematic, and a tester. These are most common in our medical research area. The first one is simple random sampling. The method is very simple, isn't it? The name is that the method is too simple. Here we need the list of complete population, and a subset of the samples or some study elements will be selected at random. There are 3 ways of selection. The methods I have studied in earlier classes as part of MBBS course and all. We have 3 methods. First one is most popular one, the lottery method. We'll be taking some lots. Lots will be prepared using the list of population, and some of the lots will be selected to the sample. The second method, we can make use of random number tables. We have different types of random number tables available. Choose the appropriate random number table. The selection of the table depends on your sample size. But nowadays, we don't use these 2 methods. Now, we generate random numbers with the help of computer. It is very easy to select or to generate random numbers in Microsoft Excel. You can make use of that if you are adopting simple random sampling in your research work. The next one is systematic random sampling. It is widely used in household surveys. You can see the picture. Here, the sampling interval will be same throughout the process. We'll have a random start. Here you can see the starting point. Here the second house selected, and every third house selected, and up to the end. And the end point will be very nearer to the starting point. That is why the method also known as circular sampling. Here the sampling is being done in a circular pattern. Most of the health projects are running based on a systematic random sampling. They have adopted systematic random sampling for household surveys. Very popular one, and also very feasible. And next one is stratified random sampling. Here, this is applicable. The method is applicable if your population is too heterogeneous. Here the heterogeneous population will be converted into homogeneous groups known as strata, and simple random samples will be selected from each stratum. The method is very useful if the population contains so many variation. For example, if you are studying the malnutrition among school-going children, we'll be selecting some schools. If you are adopting simple random sampling for data collection, we may get some schools which are coming under government sector. Actually, we have three types of schools usually see in our setup: government schools, aided schools, and unaided schools. So we should get equal or proportionate participation from each school. Uh, Stratified random sampling will be giving more appropriate samples for the study in such cases. It's one application. Lot of studies conducted adopting by stratified random sampling. The next one is cluster random sampling. Here, cluster random sampling is also known as area sampling. It is used in wide surveys. Immunization surveys, an important example. Entire population group, entire the geographical area, or complete geographical area will be converted into clusters, and some of the clusters will be selected for data collection. Here, actually, we have two types of cluster sampling: single stage cluster sampling and multi-stage cluster sampling. In single stage cluster sampling, if one cluster is selected, every element of the cluster will be selected for the study. In multi-stage cluster sampling, some of the elements, or that means simple random samples, will be selected from the selected clusters for the study purpose. That's the main difference between single stage cluster sampling and multi-stage cluster sampling. If you are studying survey among our study in Thrissur district, what can be acted as a cluster? We are doing some cluster sampling methods for data collection. We means our department, community medicine department, uses this method for different types of surveys. Next one on the slide is a slide related to the different types of non-probability sampling. And is the most important and popular one. Here, convenient units will be set for the study. It is very feasible method. In hospital setting, most of the studies are conducted based on convenient sampling, because if you are planning to conduct a study, to study about a particular disease, you may not going outside the hospital for data collection and all. Plenty of cases are available in our tertiary care hospital. So some convenient sampling is the most common method in our hospital setting. Quota sampling method is the non-probability sampling version of stratified random sampling. The main difference is that in stratified sampling, the probability units will be selected at random, and here there is no randomness. Convenient units will be selected from different quota. And judgment sampling, here it is evident that the sampling is done with the proper judgment from the part of investigator. Investigator can decide who should be selected or who should not be taken for collecting data and all. So the bias will be too more in judgment sampling. It is not an appropriate method. Then next one is no sampling technique. It is very rarely used in our research area, but it is very useful in social research. It is the method is also known as a chain sampling. It is used in surveys of sensitive issues like HIV infection and all. Here, the investigator may not get all things regarding the study from the person study subject. Then he may be approaching his close relative, like doctors or some other sample size determination is very important in our research studies. There are so many reasons for that, and I'll show you one important thing related to the sample size, that is to describe the importance. Here you see one table, 2 by 2 table, explaining the relationship between lung cancer and smoking. The investigator conducted a study with 60 samples, and he has not attained the exact result. He has got the result as not significant, means that there is no relationship between smoking and lung cancer. He is not satisfied with the study, and he increased the size and again conducted the study. He increased the size up to 600, and then he has got the exact result, the correct result. Result was significant, means that smoking is related to lung cancer. And again he conducted the study, repeated the study with his 800 samples. He has got again a significant result. What does it mean? Here, the first case, it was intuitive to increase the sample size to obtain the correct result. He knows smoking causes lung cancer. He should get the exact result. That is why he increased the size up to 600. But after a limit, it is a waste of time and money. Size be optimum as possible. It should not be too less or too more. These are the factors affecting the sample size. It depends on the hypothesis or objective of the study. We have a lot of sample size formula. Choose the appropriate one. The choice depends on the study objective. And study design also important. Check whether your study is a cross-sectional study or comparative cross-sectional study. If it's a cross-sectional study, there will be one group, and if you are planning a comparative cross-sectional study, there will be two groups, and choose the exact formula for sample size calculation. And next, primary outcome variable. Primary objective is also important. Calculation, sample size calculation is made based on the primary objective of the study, but we should consider all the objectives, but it's not a practical method. Considering there's a sample size calculation based on all objectives. Consider the primary objective, and if you feel that some other objectives are also important, that should be considered while calculating the sample size. It should be sufficient to explain the objectives or other objectives, like secondary objectives and all. And primary outcome variable, what is that? We have two types of variables, quantitative variables and qualitative variables. So just see the nature of the variable, whether it is quantitative. If it is quantitative, mean and deviation will be considered for a calculation. If your primary outcome variable is binary, the proportion will be the parameter. Effect size will be discussed in next slide. Type 1 error and power type. We have two types of errors, and in statistical tests, type 1 error is considered in the sample size calculation. We'll have a discussion on this type 1 error and power tomorrow. You can just see the use of these measures in the next slide. Participation or response rate is also important. But the response rate should be enough. I mean, in some studies, some follow-up studies, it is usually seen that if you are fixing a long period, say 6 months period follow-up, you may not get the exact, or you may not get the study subjects, or you may not get the data from the study subject completely. The last follow-up will be more. So fix the time period of fix the follow-up period completely. Otherwise, this attrition rate should be considered before fixing the final size. Initial size can be fixed, and there are certain techniques to consider the attrition rate, and that should be adjusted before finalizing the sample size. Cost is another important factor. Um, Researchers in the field of pathology or microbiology use a certain, um, you know, we call the laboratory kits. Some they use some biomarkers for the evaluation to detect the malignancy and or to differentiate the malignancy and benign cases. And these laboratory kits are usually costly. I think it can be used for one kit can be used for 20 to 30 patients or 30 samples, and one kit is approximately 20,000, or it varies from 10,000 to 30,000. Cost is an important factor. You have enough fund, no problem. Otherwise, you have to fix the sample size to the minimal level. And next important thing, pilot study versus sample size is calculated using a lot of formula, and some parameters are used in the formula. You will see in the things in next slide. And such parameters are taken from published article, maybe from your parent study. And if no such parent studies are available, pilot study is necessary to estimate such parameters. You will see such parameters. Right. This just to just for an explanation, not for by hearting the formula and all. Don't worry about the formula and all. You have three approaches for sample size calculation. One is manual work. Choose the correct formula and calculate it. Otherwise, online calculators are available. You can make use of that website sample calculation. And third one, a lot of softwares, ready-made softwares available. We can use PINFO softwares or SPSS. Somewhat calculation will be done using SPSS or other ready-made softwares. Or you can approach any IRC person or community medicine faculties for a sample size. Don't worry about the formula and all. It's showing to explain the effect size and use of type 1 error and power of the test. Here there are two terms related to the power. 80% power is fixed. Power is ability to detect the exact result, and level significance. It is related to the probability of type 1 error. Probability of error is called significance. The detailed explanation will be given tomorrow. And here it is a comparative study compared to study procedures. Here the outcome variable, see the outcome variable, it is quantitative by nature, hospital stay days. And here you can see the effect size, the denominator. Effect size is the minimum size to make a significant change among treatments. Here you are comparing two procedures, two surgical procedures, one traditional and the other modern, and the investigator can fix how many days of reduction is expected if the patient is adopting a modified procedure, and then how can he tell that the modified procedure is better. And here one parameter used, the standard deviation, because the outcome variable is quantitative by nature. just for explaining the terms. We have another formula for Q by D square. It's common formula. Uh, 4 is not a mere number. It is the approximate value of 3.84. It is mainly used in prevalence studies. The supposed value is 38 percentage and Q is 1 minus P. And we have to explain that there are two types of errors, absolute level and relative error. If you are choosing the absolute level, the usual value is 20% of P. You can go up to 30%. If you are choosing the absolute level, you will left up to 5%. So you are expecting from the real value. If you are expecting percentage, variable rate can be between 40. It's important. You have to face these two problems. Size exceeds duration of study. Uh, you have a maximum 1.5 years to complete the study, and suppose your sample size is 10,000 or 1 lakh. How will you manage the situation? Just go through the, will you do? Just go through the previous database, 2018 database or 2019 database, and apply your inclusion and exclusion criteria. Then assess how many cases you would get. And all possible cases should be taken for the study for the current period in 2011, 2020 to 11 period. You can start data collection after clearance of ethical committee. And second situation, if your sample size is very less, while calculating the size, you may get a value between 5 and 50. It is not a fair thing to complete the study with the 15 subjects. Also, it may not be able to meet all the objectives of the study. In that case, you can increase the size according to feasibility, accessibility, and ethical concerns. And how to report the sample size in your protocol. The important thing, the justification for prior estimates can give the references from which the parameters are taken. If you are studying the prevalence of a disease, you can expect, you can fix the prevalence, and the fixed value may be obtaining from previous articles, literature survey. A statement about how the sample size was adjusted, the attrition rate and all, the software or formula that was used, how did you collect, how did you fix the sample size, whether you have chosen any software or any formula. If we are using software R for sample size calculation, just mention that. Or if you have done manually, just express the formula in your protocol. How to report? See the significance level. 5% significance level is the traditional value, 5% error, and 80% power. The power is not mentioned in the formula, and we have given the formula. Maybe a prevalence study. That is why the formula is Z alpha square to PQ by D square. Just mention the prevalence of disease, and what about the value of Q, and how did you adjust the error. I have used 20% of P here, so just mention like that and give the reference number also, and that reference should be included in your reference list. That's all about the sampling and the sample size calculation. And one more thing I forgot to tell. While you approach a person, maybe a statistician or any expert in this field, um, just do not go freehand. You should have 1 or 2 articles similar to your study. Just review the literature by the literature survey, you may get similar studies. And first choice will be for Kerala articles, and second and third choices be for South Indian and North Indian or any Indian article. And if no article is available, go with the foreign article. If nothing is available, pilot study should be conducted. And you can make use of the previous database for the parameter calculation and all. And go with two or three articles, print or soft copy. Also be. That's all about the
Recording
topic. Any doubt? Any clarification needed? It's only an overall idea about the sampling and sample size because of time limitation.